Dust rose in swirls across the plains as the last stagecoach rattled into Dry Creek, a sun-baked town that seemed forgotten by time. Its main street was lined with wooden storefronts, weathered signs, and the faint smell of horses and leather. The driver pulled the reins, bringing the coach to a slow, groaning halt in front of the general store. From the coach stepped Clara Whitmore. Her dress, though travel-worn, hinted at finer days back east, cream lace frayed at the edges, a bonnet tied too tightly beneath her chin. She held a small valise, all that remained after a string of disappointments and betrayals. The fiancé who had promised her the world never showed up at their wedding. Her family, embarrassed by the scandal, told her to start anew elsewhere. So she had. But as Clara stepped onto Dry Creek's dusty street, reality pressed down hard. She had nowhere to go, no one waiting. For the first time, she truly felt what she had long suspected, that she was unwanted, unloved, and entirely alone. The townsfolk glanced her way. Some offered polite nods, others looked past her, too busy with their own lives to bother. Clara clutched her valise tighter, heart sinking. "Ma'am," a voice said quietly. She turned to find a tall man in a deputy's badge. His hat shaded his eyes, but there was a steadiness in the way he held himself. He wasn't loud or commanding, but something about him carried weight. "You new to town?" he asked. Clara nodded, her throat dry. "Yes. I don't know how long I'll stay." He studied her carefully, noting the uncertainty in her voice. "Name's Deputy Samuel Carter. Folks call me Sam." "Clara Whitmore," she answered softly. Sam tipped his hat. "Welcome to Dry Creek, Miss Whitmore. You got family here?" The question cut sharper than she expected. She shook her head. "No family. No one at all." Sam didn't say anything right away. He simply looked at her with a quiet compassion that made her chest ache. For years she had longed for someone to truly see her. And here was this stranger, seeing more than she wanted to admit. The first days in Dry Creek were hard. Clara rented a small room above the boarding house, but her savings dwindled fast. She stitched seams for the mercantile owner's wife and taught letters to a few children, yet each night she lay awake, staring at the ceiling, wondering if this town would cast her aside as every place before had. It was Sam who kept appearing at the edges of her days. He would walk her home when evening shadows stretched across the street. He fixed the loose latch on her boarding house door without being asked. When Clara carried baskets too heavy from the market, Sam was suddenly there, taking the weight from her hands with a gentle nod. He wasn't a man of many words. But when he did speak, Clara found herself listening as though each word mattered. He talked about the land, about keeping the peace in a place that sometimes wanted to tear itself apart. And once, he spoke of loss, how a fever had taken his wife years ago, leaving him alone with only his badge and his silence. Clara's heart tightened at the confession. Loss was something she understood. One evening, as the town prepared for a barn dance, Clara hesitated at the mirror in her small rented room. The dress she wore was plain, mended more times than she could count. She nearly decided not to go, afraid she would look out of place among the lively girls in their bright gowns. But a knock came at her door. Sam stood there, freshly shaved, his shirt pressed neat beneath his vest. In his hands he held a single wildflower, plucked from the prairie. "For you," he said simply. Clara took it with trembling fingers. No one had given her flowers in years. "You didn't have to." "Wanted to," Sam replied, his gaze steady. At the dance, Sam didn't let her sit along the sidelines. He asked her to dance, and though Clara's steps faltered, his steady hands guided her across the floor. The fiddle played fast, boots stomped against wooden planks, and for the first time since her world had fallen apart, Clara laughed, real, unguarded laughter. When the song slowed, Sam held her close, and Clara felt something she had never dared hope for, belonging. But happiness in the West was fragile. Trouble rode into Dry Creek one hot afternoon in the form of a drifter named Cole Maddox. With sharp eyes and quicker hands, he made it clear he had no respect for law or decency. Clara watched from the window of the general store as Cole squared off against Sam in the street. "You're in my way, deputy," Cole sneered. Sam didn't flinch. "Not your town, Maddox. Move along." the tension stretched taut as a whip. Clara's hands shook against the windowsill. She had already lost so much. Could she bear to lose Sam too? The drifter drew his gun. Shots cracked through the air. Clara screamed, until she saw Sam standing tall, unharmed, his revolver drawn faster than lightning. Cole's weapon lay in the dirt, his arm grazed. Sam ordered him out of town, his voice low but firm, leaving no room for defiance. Only when it was over did Clara realize her legs had given out beneath her. That night, Sam found her sitting on the boarding house steps, tears streaking her face. "You could have been killed," she whispered. "Comes with the badge," he said, but his eyes softened. "Clara, don't cry. I'm still here." Her voice broke. "I can't lose anyone else. Not you." Sam knelt beside her, his rough hand covering hers. "You won't. Not if I can help it." From that day forward, something shifted between them. Sam came by more often, not just to check on her safety but to share quiet suppers, to walk under the stars, to talk about futures neither had dared imagine. Clara, who had always believed she was unworthy of love, began to see herself differently through his eyes. One evening, as the sky burned pink with sunset, Sam took her hand and led her to a small piece of land just outside town. "Been thinking," he said, his voice steady but low. "This place could hold a home. A real one. I can't promise riches, Clara, but I can promise steadiness. I can promise you'll never face this world alone again." Tears blurred her vision. "Sam, do you mean?" He nodded. "I mean, I want you here with me. Not just as someone I look after. As the woman I love." Clara's breath caught. For years she had believed she was unwanted, cast aside, unlovable. But here was this quiet, steadfast deputy, offering her not just protection, but a place, a future, a home. "Yes," she whispered, her heart trembling but sure. "Sam, I'll stay. I'll stay with you." He pulled her into his arms, and for the first time in her life, Clara felt what home truly meant, not walls and a roof, but the steady beat of a man's heart against hers, the promise that she was no longer alone. And in Dry Creek, under the endless western sky, Clara Whitmore, once forgotten, once unloved, found her reason to belong. The weeks that followed brought a kind of peace Clara had never known. She moved her few belongings from the boarding house into Sam's modest cabin at the edge of town. The place was simple, wooden walls, a stone hearth, shelves lined with Sam's well-used books. Yet with fresh curtains she sewed herself, wildflowers gathered in a jar, and the warmth of shared laughter, it quickly became something far greater than four walls. It became theirs. The townsfolk noticed the change too. Where once Clara had been the quiet outsider, now she carried herself with a newfound steadiness. Children she tutored began to call her Miss Clara, with bright smiles, and the shopkeepers tipped their hats with genuine warmth.